Monster Hunter Stories 3 review! And there comes a giant pig! This game came out on March 13, and I'll tell you, it is peak! This game is a huge development on the previous games in the series, and exceeded a lot of my expectations. I would go as far to say it is one of the best monster-taming games out there. I would go as far to say this game is what modern Pokemon wishes it could be. Not counting Pokopia. Stories 1 and 2. They were fun games, and Stories 2 mechanically was a great development on Stories 1, but they weren't games I would recommend to people. They were very niche. It was like, if you were a Monster Hunter fan, you'd probably play it, right? But otherwise you wouldn't. However, Stories 3, big recommend, wholeheartedly. You could definitely get into Stories 3 as your first game. It does have references and callbacks to the first two games, but you technically don't need to know them. It won't change the story in like any huge way, you'll just understand a few things better. You could play Stories 3 and then go back and try the first two games if you really want.
Loaf.
What makes this game a big recommendo from me? Whale. So what is the game? The game is a turn-based monster fighting JRPG with a rock, paper, scissors combat formula, containing lots of different variables in combat, like buffs, guarding, evade, and so on. The combat is pretty simple, but it's fun because it rewards your knowledge on monsters and other things. The animations are really fun in combat though, especially when you do kinship attacks. Kinship is a meter you feel that lets you ride your monstie, and it basically allows you to do an ultimate attack. And every monster has a unique one. They're really cool, and some of them really stand out. You also have a life system, 3 lives, and you lose a life when you or your monster's health bar is depleted. So basically, don't die. The combat is rather simple, but there's a lot of knowledge checks that really make it feel rewarding when you know things. Now, as I said, this is a monster taming game. What's that all about in this? Well, basically, you have monster dens, and they'll be scattered across the map. You go in them, they'll have a nest filled with eggs. You can rob the eggs from the nest a certain amount of times, or you can just leave with the first you like. Each egg has a different design, which would tell you what egg corresponds to what monstie. So you can go for a specific monstie egg if you wish to. When you hatch a monstie, as you can guess, it will have certain stats allocated to it. Something nice about this game is that a lot of these stats you can change and manage, which makes it feel a lot more accessible and time-saving than other games. The region you hatch a monstie in will also determine what second element it gets, which is cool because you can basically get monsties with different color palettes. You also get to see a baby monstie, which is cute. There's also a system in the game where you can swap about abilities and passives to other monstie, the gene system basically. You can essentially just run the game whatever monsties you want. Sure, some will do better in specific scenarios, but it is technically possible to beat the game with the first few monsties you get. The gene system is pretty great. It was in previous games as well, and it also provides a reason to get multiple eggs of the same monstie. But there's also another reason too: habitat restoration. If you're here still, please like, comment and subscribe. The algorithm sucks, so it will help a lot. Thank you. Habitat restoration lets you release monsties into the wild to increase the population, which buffs the eggs you get in that specific area of release. And you can do this with any monstie in any location. This is a really fun mechanic and is a key part of the way you get so many varied monsters. It also looks really funny when you release like 5 monsters of terror into the wild. Go my children, destroy the ecosystem. It also actually infects the in-game world as well. So like this lake had Plesioth all over it. And then I released a laggy and now it's just laggies everywhere. It's kind of funny, I like it. Now if you haven't noticed yet, look how beautiful this game looks. It's a crazy step up from the previous games. The environments and the monsters both look really good. Like look at this, it's crazy man. I guess this is what happens when you're limited to 3DS or Switch and then the devs are like, oh okay, here's better software. And it seems at least the Switch 2 isn't holding them back. Oh, and the music. Oh, the music is really good in this one as well. I'd rather not spoil too much about some of it, but a lot of the boss tracks go really hard. The demo had the Glad fight, which was a really good OST, and it was basically World's Gladness OST, but with some synth and bass and sirens added onto it. Really good. Definitely try out the demo. Alright, so let's address the Gos Harag in the room. Is the story good? So, because, you know, the game is called Stories. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, I felt the story in the previous games was pretty weak, which is ironic considering it's called Monster Hunter Stories. But I can gladly say that the story in this one actually felt good. Without trying to spoil much, war and you need answers for things. Also, nature protect. Something notable to me though was the characters. You basically go on a journey with the crew, like a lot of JRPGs, but I think they're all likable characters in their own unique way. They also have their own monsters, which commonly have a cute name to them. I always love when some sort of media has the whole group travels the world together to beat the big bad and achieve the big goal kind of trope to it, right? It's like going on an adventure with friends, which is some of the best times a person can experience. A lot of my favourite things kind of have this trope, like One Piece and Final Fantasy and all that, so there's possible bias for me here, but trust me, it's fun. This game does feel like it has a lot of love put into it. You can definitely feel the passion playing through and experiencing specific things in the game. Capcom have been on a pretty big roll for a long time now, and you notice it a lot with Monster Hunter games. The first and second Stories games, they were good, but they felt niche, and you can easily see how much the team have improved with Stories 3. It really does feel like a huge jump in quality for the series, but the game doesn't go without some criticism. Firstly, why can I not access the habitat restoration UI outside of the camp? This is a small criticism, but it's kind of annoying. It would be a nice quality of life, which surely they wouldn't take too much time to implement. I don't know. I don't think it's that complicated. Secondly, in the previous games, once you had beaten the story, there was quite a lot of post-game content to do, which felt pretty grindy but fun. This game doesn't seem to have any of that, which truthfully makes it feel a bit unfinished. It's possible they just decided not to do that for the quality of other things, but I would love for some post-game content. So hopefully they decided to add a lot into the game with title updates. I suppose a subjective criticism is that there is a lot of side quests, and a lot of these side quests feel very checkboxy, like a task instead of going on an actual side quest. It's like an objective that you just tick off, right? And I think it takes you out of it a bit. Not like, it's not a huge criticism, it's just something I felt when playing through the game. There's also no hunter companion who you can fight with. Corbin exists as an ally you travel with, but you can't actually select him as a combat companion. Whereas in the previous games you had people like Roberto and Kyle. A subjective criticism, but I think they're cool allies to fight with at times. You're also forced to keep Rafa in your party, even after you've beaten the game, which is a weird choice and sort of adds to that feeling of the game possibly being unfinished. But that's really my only complaints. There's some UI things that could be improved regarding quests, but other than that, I think that's it. There may be a bit more I could think of in the future since I'm sort of in my honeymoon phase anyway, This game just had a really fun journey to it though. I don't think this is actually exclusive to Stories 3. Something about the Stories games, it's always a nice journey to go on. Even if the story isn't great, it's just a fun adventure with the gang, you know what I mean? Anyways, this game is sick. I definitely recommend this one. You can technically play it as your first Stories game and understand what's going on. There's a few things you won't understand, but I don't think they're going to hugely matter. Anyway, now I'm going to go destroy the ecosystem.
With my pickles.
Raffaloaf.